Recognizes the gentleman from Florida, Representative Bilirakis, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it very much, and I appreciate all the testimony here. I represent Pasco County, one of the counties that I represent, and it's no stranger to horrors of the federal permitting process. In 1998, the county identified the need for an additional emergency evacuation route for use during a flood event, such as a hurricane. That year, the county submitted its proposal known as the Ridge Road Extension Project to federal regulators. That public safety project sat in a regulatory quagmire for 22 years, despite the overwhelming support of the county residents and really unanimous support in the Tampa Bay area. Meanwhile, the 178,000 people who were deemed to benefit from the emergency project were put at risk. The project was finally green-lighted after President Trump issued an executive order titled Expediting Environmental Reviews and Approvals for High-Priority Infrastructure Projects. But we shouldn't have to rely on an executive order, folks, in my opinion, to streamline permitting, especially for projects that promote public safety. That's why I have submitted the Coastal Broadband Deployment Act as a discussion draft for today's hearing. This bill would remove lengthy barriers to deploying or modifying communication facilities within a floodplain, which can help people stay connected during a weather event. And I want to tell you, Ridge Road we finally got it done. And man, oh man, the people love it. The community loves it, and they feel safer because it is an evacuation route. God forbid we have a hurricane in our area directly. If we get a direct hit, it's going to be very difficult. But I want to ask the question, Mr. Romano, in your written testimony, you mentioned that your members have delays as long as the 2 years due to federal reviews when building out. Can you discuss the potential regulatory problems a company may face if they wanted to modify an existing communications facility, for example, to make it more resilient to natural disasters? If you could answer that question, I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Congressman, for the question. One of the most confounding deployment struggles we face at times is restoring networks, putting in where previously disturbed earth is there. You would think that putting a network back in or upgrading an existing network in a previously disturbed right-of-way should be relatively seamless due to the fact that it's already been used, and you would think that it's gone through reviews in the past. Nonetheless, we run into these circumstances all too frequently, and so I think bills like the one you've talked about are going to be critical to make sure that we can get through both the NEPA and the National Historic Preservation Act and Section 106 procedures as promptly as possible to re-engage or and then upgrade those networks in those places. The one other note I would make, Congressman, very quickly on this bill and a number of others is because they're amending existing law, they tie to 6409, which is a provision that's primarily dealing with wireless issues. So we would encourage the subcommittee and folks to think about this. I know there are some bills in here that help to amend 6409 to pick up wireline networks as well. And so we would like to make sure to see that as part of all of these measures to pick up wireless and wireline networks alike and make sure they're all resilient and can be restored quickly.
Very good. It makes a lot of sense to me. Mr. Saperstein, during an emergency, real-time communication keeps people informed of ongoing threats. Do you think there are instances where regulatory delays in building out or disaster mitigation of communications facilities could unnecessarily threaten lives through hindered communications?
Yes, and what we see right now is that much of the parklands, particularly in western districts, are still unserved, and that is really a public safety threat. So we would encourage any actions that can really expedite siting on federal lands in order to avoid those public safety instances.
Okay, I'd like to ask this question for Mr. O'Reilly. If we don't have time, at least he can get it for the record. Over the past several years, the federal government has allocated tens of billions of dollars of taxpayer money for broadband build-out and closing the digital divide, as you said. In your estimation as a percentage, how much of allocated dollars are doing regulatory red tape as opposed to actually getting people connected?
I'm happy to give you more specific, but if I had to, off the top, I would say it's probably around 15 to 20%.
Okay, that's a lot. So yeah, please, if you can give us some more specific information, I'd appreciate it. And I'll yield back, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
The gentleman is yielded back. Chair now recognizes the gentleman